Well, I haven't had a haircut in a long time.
I haven't either. That's why I'm wearing a hat.
So I'm looking like my younger collegey self, I think, today.
So here we are, the meeting. I hope everyone's life is good. Is everyone's work still going well? I know Mike was just telling me his work is cutting back a little bit, but
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good for me. I've been working outside the home, so gone a lot, but it's good work.
Busy, busy. Yeah. When other things are slowing down, they decide that that's time to get all the special projects done that everybody wants to get done. And that usually falls on our group to get done. So we've been like super busy. People working weekends.
okay, yeah.
And we can't have that.
It's not that there's anything to do on the weekend. So nobody was really complaining because they had nothing to do.
I know for us, like as the pastors, when it all started to shake down, it felt like I wasn't doing anything for the first weeks, and now I feel like things have started to pick up. I've been on the phone a lot more and connecting with people more, and having to make more decisions now that businesses are reopening and things like that. So.
I think it's interesting how everybody is encouraged to work from home, and everything just kind of fell into place for them that previously would be like work from home. Why would you want to do that? Now that's what they want everyone to do. Same with the schools, the schools, okay, we're doing distance learning, and it's just like, you have to be able to do it and do it now. It's not been horrible, I don't think. I mean, it's challenging, but it's not horrible.
Yeah, everyone's had to adjust really fast, which is, that's okay. I guess if you're going to have change happen, I guess I personally rather have it just happen really quickly. And so then, I don't know, I kind of like that. But I'm not much of a prep guy, but that's a good and bad thing. Just to start us off, what are some of your hobbies? Let's just kind of go around and say some of your hobbies.
I don't know, they've morphed over time depending upon like having children and stuff like that and what you can actually do. My hobbies forever in my youth was always music. So I did everything music. I was a fine arts major. That's all I did. I was in like an Irish band. I've always been a fix-it sort of person. And then somehow it morphed over the last, I don't know, decade or so into computers and electrical engineering. I have no clue why this has happened, but it's like it doesn't require a ton of space because I liked woodworking, but like I had no room. Like we were in an apartment, there was no room. I was like literally like sanding stuff in a closet. I'm like putting epoxy on, and Nancy's just screaming at me, "Get stuff out of the house! It smells so bad." And I'm like, okay, fine. I need to find a new hobby. I can't do woodworking and refinishing in the spare bedroom. And so that's when I started doing the electrical stuff. So James is now 8, so he's old enough to kind of nerd out with this stuff. He has no patience for computer programming though. So what happens is we have this idea for something fun to do, and then we sit down and we start doing it, and he hates it that it doesn't work for the first hour. He's like, "We'll run it." No, it didn't work. It didn't work. It didn't work. And then that just drives him crazy. So then he's like all in my face, and I can't. Then I'm getting angry at him. But that's what we do. I felt like we were going to get locked down at work. I ordered from Amazon one of these Atomic Pi computer boards. James and I have been loading up Linux distros on it, and then we were playing video games on it. He liked all the old button mashers, the old arcade games. Anything that plugs into a TV and makes a video, I think every kid likes that stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
It does cause problems, though. I went downstairs like 3 weeks ago, and there was like James and Lily had gotten their own flashlights, like a little gift from grandma or something. And then like there's James's flashlight on the workbench, totally dismantled in pieces. And he's like, "I just wanted to see what was inside," but it was like destroyed.
That sounds like me. I want to see how that works. Yeah.
I think I've got quite a few hobbies. I kind of dabble in a bunch of little things. So I think my biggest one is board games. I've got probably close to 300, something like that, board games. And out of that has come, I got a 3D printer because then I can 3D print things for my board games and other stuff. So, but I went to college for web design, so I have some programming background. Excuse me. So with this 3D printer, of course, then I dove deep and reinstalled all the software, different software, did upgrades to it, then had to change the code so that these upgrades could work. But by and large, my biggest hobby is board games, and actually any kind of game, but board games.
You can see some of your collection behind you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a small part of it.
I see a few of them that are familiar.
My brother has like 300 board games also, and there's this game where there's like these little battleships that are in plastic cards. They look like they come in like credit cards, and you snap out the little pieces and you make a little battleship and you put it on the table. And the edge of the card is the ruler, and then they attack each other. Like you have to go get treasure on the tabletop.
I don't know which one that is. I don't have that. That's interesting though.
Been
Yeah,
looking
now we know what he's gonna do when we're all done. He's gonna go and find that.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, there's a lot of people who, like, if you're not really in the board game hobby, if you're just kind of casually in it where you play like Apples to Apples, you know, all the classics that people have played, you wouldn't realize how many games there are out there and how many come out every year. I mean, there's probably any given year, there's probably around 3,000 or so games that come out every year. And maybe only about 200, 300 of those are good.
Yeah.
I mean, good is subjective, but only about 200 or 300 of those are ones that are popular that people buy, but that's still a lot. So, and that's year on end.
Even just watching Kickstarters is crazy.
Oh, man.
There's so
It's
many
crazy.
games come out all the time. And so many that it's like, am I actually interested in this? I have no idea.
Right. Yeah. And you get to a certain point where you're like, hey, you've got 300 games, but that one looks really good. But I don't want to get rid of any of them that I have. So I have a problem.
And that's why you're on this call.
Well,
Stacy, how about you?
A lot of different things. Probably stemming from I try a lot of different things because I'll get bored with one. And then I'm like, hey, let's try this instead or whatever. Or my kids say I do a lot of weird, quirky things. You know, I like to make messes, and not clean them up. But yeah, when they were younger, I would do a lot of art kind of experiments and stuff with them. We built a pendulum for paint and we put it out in the garage and would swing back and forth and you pop it like a dish soap bottle, pop it open and then we would swing it back and forth hanging from the garage door and made this huge mural thing with pendulum paint bottle, and just crazy stuff like that, or making silhouettes on the fence. So they always said that I did crazy things, Nerf wars in the backyard and zombies, stuff like that. So I'm a little quirky like that with kiddos, but they're all older now. So
yeah,
now I'm kind of getting more into the things that, not that I don't like that stuff. I had a lot of fun and I still have fun with stuff like that. But I guess for me, it's been woodworking is one thing, I guess. And John mentioned that too, but figuring out what you can build or taking something that's, broken or older and making it look new. And that's what I actually do for a job, really. Wood carving's always been kind of fun for me in the summertime. Just little, like whittling wood, I carved a wooden chain links, I'll connect it and it's hard, but it's a lot of fun because you put a lot of hours into something like that, and then you've got this chain, and it's like, that's cool. So
I did that.
The ball in the cage thing, it's like a wood thing, and you can carve it all out of the inside of it, and it moves around, but it can't come out. I can't remember if it was Josiah or the Bishop, and I was working on it at Bible camp one summer, and he's like, that's really cool. He would just stand there and watch me carve this wood. And when I finished it later that summer, I gave it to him at church, and he thought it was the coolest thing ever. So it was just fun to, kids kind of like say, hey, what are you doing over there? I'm like, well, I'm cutting some wood, So that's been kind of a fun hobby, especially in the warmer months because it's kind of messy. So carve something up outside or whatever. So tried a little bit of pretty much everything as far as art goes or any kind of weird hobbies. The weirder the better. So, I mean, I'm not afraid to try anything new. I think that really is what it boils down to. Like, hey, I want to try that. I want to try anything. I can do a lot of things kind of okay. I just can't do one thing really great because I won't stick with it long enough.
Right.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I would say for me, my hobbies are video games and board games. I recently have just gotten back into Age of Empires 2. If you've ever played that old RTS, it's been really fun. Yeah, board games. Emma and I play some board games sometimes. I'm trying to get her into some more. we recently just played Journeys in Middle Earth, and we went through the first campaign. We did it in a weekend. We played about 16 hours in one weekend.
Holy cow.
We'd put Thatcher on the floor and let him just wander around, and we just keep playing.
Nice.
Really fun. But I really like gardening as well. Never thought I'd say that, but I really like gardening, and so we're planning on making some raised beds for our garden for our vegetables. So probably gonna pick up lumber this week and over the weekend put them together. So I don't know. When I was young, I never would have ever thought I would like gardening, but I really like it. It's really strange.
I tried it. It's not my thing.
Really? Well, you got a green thumb. You know, Emma's our green thumb, and so it's rubbed off on me a little bit, I think.
Right. Yeah, my mom, she grows the vegetables. I eat them. That's kind of how it goes.
I like the idea of gardening, but I like the idea. I like in practice cooking and making food and grilling and that kind of stuff more.
Sometimes you get lucky on the grill, and other times it's just okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I like gardening if it's in like a pot. You know, it's like
Yeah.
just like it's like I tell the kids pick out like a bean and I'm like put it in that pot. I love that. I love that, and we eat the bean. It's great. I love it.
So how have you been pursuing your hobbies during quarantine?
I haven't done a whole lot. Most of the reason I haven't done a whole lot is because I haven't had a whole lot of time. But there are definitely games that you can play, even the physical copies. You know, if you have a physical copy of a game, I might only have to have the game. You guys could print off some sheets. We could all play the game. You know, like think kind of like Yahtzee. Yahtzee, you just need a sheet of paper and you could play it. You know, one person rolls the dice. So there's games like that, but it's been pretty difficult.
Do you have some games that you can do? I know that Steve does some stuff like online, you know, that you can play the game through emailing or something like that too.
I haven't done like the ones that Steve plays. I haven't done many of those. Those are really big, complicated war games, which I am kind of afraid of. There's so many rules.
He's been trying to get me to do it because I really like history. Likes history, so we've been talking about that. But yeah, I thought it was interesting that you still play these games with people and not have to be, you know, with them, which is thing we need to do right now. So
there's websites called there's one called Tabletopia and one called Tabletop Simulator, and you can go on those websites like Tabletopia. Like if I had a $10 a month subscription, which I think is their highest one, it's a 3D environment on your computer where you're playing a board game. Like you have to know the rules of the game. You move the pieces around. It's just like you're playing a real game, except, you know, you could do it over Zoom or whatever. I haven't delved into those much, but there's tons of stuff out there, especially now. And there's a bunch of companies who are actually like giving away free PDF print and play copies of their games that they sell in stores.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, just to support people being at home and having stuff to do. So I've definitely leaned more on video games lately.
Yeah.
I can't that sounds perfect because I can't have any game that is physically complicated that can be completely destroyed by someone's pumping it. I can't have it at all. I literally cannot have that for either of my children at this point. It just or anything that has to stay set up for more than 24 hours. That's not gonna happen. The one board game we've been playing with my daughter, it's just little cardboard circles with colors on them, and you roll this little dice with colors on them, and then you put these little strong men. They're about this big, and you put them on the board, and you just stack them up until it falls over. Terribly. Super cute, super easy, and the whole goal is that it's going to fall over eventually.
Yeah. Yep.
That sounds cool. I have a game that's called Color Coup. It's like Sudoku, and it's just a big wooden thing with little wooden balls. When he was talking about that made me think of it. But they're all colored, and you can have those colors. So like the 1 to 9, got 9 different colored balls, and you put them in the rows, and so you pick a card, and they level their difficulties go up from there. But it's a really fun game because it's no math. It's just colors. And for somebody that likes a good challenge, it's kind of fun to throw it together. And it looks nice too. I mean, it's kind of colorful, and I don't know, it's been fun.
There's one I have called Rhino Hero. I actually have Rhino Hero, and there's Rhino Hero Super Battle. It's basically, it's kind of like, I mean, it's along the same lines as Jenga, only the tower doesn't start built. You're basically building a tower of cards. So you take cards and you fold them, you bend them a little bit, and you're building this card tower. and you don't want to be the one who knocks it down. And like Rhino Hero Super Battle it's got like bigger cards and other things and little monkeys you can hang on there, so like I can force someone else to have to hang a little monkey, like the Barrel of Monkeys. You hang one on there, and if it falls, then they lose. But you're trying to get it. People have made 10-foot tall towers with this game, and it's all just about trying to stack it and try and put a card on and not knock it over, and not put one and go, oh, because then you breathe out and the whole thing falls over.
That's a hobby or a little thing that I've always wanted to try was building the cards, building up those things. I've played around with it a little bit, but it's so frustrating.
Right.
But that and the dominoes things with contraptions and all that, that's kind of a fun thing too. So
I do not have patience for that kind of thing at all. Rhino Hero looks really fun. I've never heard of Color Code either. But how have you been pursuing your hobbies during quarantine?
Well, we started out doing it, but we haven't really been doing much. We just got too busy here. I've been putting the little one to bed at like 7-ish and 7:30, and half the time I fall asleep in the bed, and then I come crawling out there at like 8, and then I read to James. I put him to bed, and usually right around 8:30, 9 o'clock, I don't have a lot left in me. So I can do something if I force myself to stand up, because I can't sit down. If I sit down, I'm gonna fall asleep. That's not gonna work. So I have to like run downstairs into the dungeon and try to work on something really quick. I call it the dungeon, but it's just a mess, really. The mess is right next to my workstation for work, so I'm more likely to just go down and work than actually do hobbies. James and I like to make things. We like to make things, but it ends up being so rushed because I think this is just the nature of having small children. You have very little time to do it. So when you do it, you have to do it really fast and get it done. And that means that most of the things I make are very half-baked and very crappy. I really enjoy doing it. I really do. But I think I would probably have better success with the soap bottle and the paint in the garage hanging from the ceiling. I feel like I could be really successful with that because I could pick the colors to coordinate with something, and I could probably get something out of it, hang it in my house. It would probably be okay. Pursuing the hobbies hasn't really been happening. It's been challenging. Yeah, they don't happen by themselves. You definitely have to pursue it.
yeah. I've noticed with the quarantine stuff and with people that are at home, we all have those projects at home that we're like, we should paint that room or, add this or that to it. And it's always something that we have in our head. Yeah, we're going to do that someday. Well, now they're at home, they have nothing else to do. So that's what they're doing is doing a remodeling or whatever they may do. Hardware stores are open, so there's been a lot of furniture stuff happening for me. And so I've been using that. So it's a hobby and I love doing it. I mean, some people always say, do you ever stop working? I'm like, well, it's not really work if I love doing it, so right. I've been doing a lot of that kind of stuff and making people happy with some of the furniture. I've been working at Burlap and then people have been ordering from there online and we do delivery and stuff, but I get to like do these transformations for people and they're happy because they can then update the space that they'd never had the time to work on before. So that's been really interesting that people are finding the time to do those things and they're excited about it. Yeah. And, and sometimes it's made me a little bit sad. So like you always wanted to do this, but you never had the time, but now you do. And you feel good about it. Mm-hmm. It had to be a virus that caused us all to stop and do the stuff we really wanted to do for so long, but never had the time for. But that's really been kind of a cool thing for me to like help people, fall in love with the space that they were working on or wanted to do or make it great, and they never had the time to do it. And just the right piece of furniture, or maybe they have their own grandma's, nightstand or buffet table or something in the garage, and they've always wanted to do something with it because it's sentimental. And I've been able to help a few people with that too, and that's been really cool. So it's a hobby, but it's also still a job, and I just love doing that. And I like to make people smile, and I finally can actually, with confidence, say I think I'm good at it. I've never been able to say that, but I made a lot of people smile, and that feels good. So
nice,
good stuff.
Yeah, I think for me, pursuing my hobbies during quarantine, like I said, I feel like I've been I've been, like I said, I've been on the phone more, so I feel like I've been a little more connected, but I think overall I've been working a little less than normal. It has been interesting. We've been doing a lot of gardening because last year Emma was pregnant all summer and she was not feeling good, and so we didn't do like anything, and the grass is just all over in our garden beds and our flower beds, and so we're trying to make up for lost time from last year. So we spend 1 or 2 days a week working on weeding and trying to get stuff ready. And we tore out a bunch of fencing, getting ready for these raised beds. So with that, and I had a Age of Empires online party this last week, and it was
Nice.
pretty fun. We played until like 1:30 in the morning, and that's the latest I've stayed up in quite a while. But especially with the young Thatcher, he's always waking up early. So, but it was worth it. So
Yeah.
I've definitely been pursuing my hobbies, which is not as much. I've been spending a lot more time with Emma and with Thatcher, and it's been really good, but it's been different. I think last year, this time around, Emma was so sick, she just laid in bed all the time. So I just like played video games all the time. And so we've actually covered kind of a wide variety of hobbies. And so, with John and his coding and kind of doing Raspberry Pi stuff, which I used to really be interested in when I worked at Radio Shack. And we had all those products in. I talked to people about them a lot, but I never actually got into them myself. And board games and kind of woodworking and all that different stuff. What are some resources or suggestions you would give to someone who's interested in starting in your area of interest?
Well, Pinterest's got awesome stuff and hobbies and ideas and tutorials and all that kind of stuff.
I haven't spent too much time on Pinterest, but it scares me.
And it's kind of a girly thing, but trust me, there's guy stuff there too.
Yeah, right.
I needed to do some garage organizing because I'm kind of a garage girl. You won't find me in the kitchen very often. I'm in the garage all the time or at work, and I needed to find some ways to organize some things in my garage, and so I went on Pinterest and like tool storage. Like there was some pretty cool stuff on there. I'm like, see, it's not just for women anymore. So there's some interesting stuff there.
I guess I would say for board games, probably your best resource that's not going to scare people away. Just go to YouTube and go search for the Dice Tower. They have thousands and thousands of videos. They do top 10 lists. They've done tons of top 10 lists on, beginner games or games to get if you're getting into the hobby, essential games to get, or even just go to Barnes and Noble and go to the game section there. They usually have a good selection of family games, classic games if you like Monopoly or any of those kind of games, or even games that are a little more in depth. There's a lot of really good games that might seem complicated at first, but if you give them a chance, they'll really surprise you.
Well, I think for building stuff, I think Pinterest is a good place for all kinds of fun little projects for an idea, and they usually have good instructions, and they usually have a bill of materials that you can do. But I've also used Instructables. I think people get a little nervous about, like, obviously the vast majority of people who are doing like the programming or like a Raspberry Pi or an Arduino project, they're already in the space. They're already engineers, or they're probably already computer programmers. That's not always the case. And I find that a lot of the Instructables, a lot of the projects that people have already done, they're really well documented. They don't cost much, but it would be really daunting to try to come up with your own project and try to solve it. But then to have somebody else's, and you see exactly how they did it, and you just have to copy some code, it's no big deal. I think that's a really approachable thing to do in that space. You'd have to already have to be in that same exact space though as somebody who wants to make things. Like you like making things. You like making toys, you like making artwork, any of those. If you like making something, then you can get into that space first with an interest in it. And if you have an interest in it, then you have to go and look at how to do it in a very small bite-sized chunk and get through it. It's definitely, I don't know about the rest of you, but I feel like, well, board games are always expensive, but a lot of these projects, a lot of things are cheaper than they ever have been. Like, I don't know why, they just seem like they're more accessible, probably because of Amazon, because of Chinese vendors. You can just get a lot of things like I wouldn't probably never be able to do half the things I do, except that they don't cost me anything anymore. I was worried. I was like, I had a lot of anxiety that I was spending all this money because I was shopping on like eBay and stuff and ordering bags of electronic garbage and just like having it come in. And then I went in and downloaded all my receipts from my bank and calculated them up, and I had spent like $100 over like 12 months. And I thought, that's not so bad. Like that's $10 a month, the price of 2 lattes. I'm okay, you know.
Well, that's kind of what I found when I got my 3D printer, because 3D printers always seemed like they were things that I was never going to get a 3D printer. They're way too expensive, you know, hundreds and hundreds of dollars or even thousands of dollars. They're still a little expensive to get into, but, you know, for $250, you can get a 3D printer and then buy a roll of filament for $20 and you can print a ton of stuff. And it's really great for people who are tinkerers, you know, because you're going to be constantly tinkering with that 3D printer. And that's the hole I fell down, you know. And like you were talking about with coding, how it can be daunting if you're trying to troubleshoot something yourself. I could never write some code on my own. I don't have that knowledge. I've got a little background in understanding simple things with coding, but when I got the 3D printer, I replaced like the motherboard. Well, then the motherboard that I put in, I had to put firmware on it and then customize the firmware to work with what was in my 3D printer and all the little things that I added onto it. I thought I was never going to actually get it to run, but you know, searching through YouTube, searching through Reddit, searching online, there's tons of documentation for things out there to where people can go, hey, try this snippet of code or try editing this part of the code, or, you know, and
Google it. That's what I would say. You don't know how to do it, Google it.
Right.
Someone.
That's my whole job. That's like
where he got me a new machine, and it's one of those cutting machines. It's not Cricut. I don't like Cricut, but I like to do graphics design as a hobby / freelance kind of thing too. I really love that, along with working as doing graphics design on my computer and stuff. I can make my graphics in Illustrator, and then I have this past week just actually found out a way to take my designs right from Illustrator and import it into my Silhouette design program, because the design program on there is not nearly as powerful as Illustrator. But that was really cool. Something I just did yesterday was like learning how to transfer your own graphics to this machine, and then cutting out these vinyls for Corey for his motorcycle. And I mean, there's a lot of really neat things you can do with this machine. And some people are like, want to try it, but it's a machine. It's still electronics and stuff, and things on the computer. But once you learn how to do it, it's a lot of fun to see the things you can make.
Is it a laser cutter?
It's not. It's actually got 2 blades, and you can cut like so many different things with this. So it's not laser. Okay. That would be the Glowforge like that. Glowforge is a laser. That's a real complicated thing. You have to have like venting for that and stuff, because you can cut glass. So it's a way more complicated machine, but this is just blades, and I have done so many projects with it, and I really like it. And this is a newer version of it, and I bought the first version like several years ago. That it still works, it just doesn't have some of the capabilities that I like on this one. And so I have one that I'm thinking about selling, just the older version. But it's really a cool machine. So that the 3D printer thing is like when it's something that you really like, you'll do what you got to do to figure out how to make it do what you want.
Right.
So, you know, you may not be able to do coding, but this is something you like, so I'm gonna figure it out. You know. Right. So yeah, that's what hobbies are. You enjoy figuring it out. That's what I think. That's kind of like the epitome of what a hobby is, right?
Right. Yeah. I kind of found that with the 3D printer itself became the hobby, like upgrading it, tinkering it, printing out parts for it, on it.
Right.
You know, how can I make it better? You know, that's yeah.
And you got rid of it as soon as you got it upgraded?
Oh no, I still have it. I'm not getting rid of it.
Well, that's done.
If anything, I'll get another one. Just don't tell my wife that.
How has God used your hobbies?
I think I kind of talked about that with the other people who are finding the time to do that. It's been really cool to see them get excited about that and be happy with it, you know. And it's just always, we always have those little things that we want to work on and we never do. And it's kind of makes you feel crummy when they're sitting there and you want to do it, but you never do it.
Yeah.
And you actually kind of get to this place of being kind of, I don't know, frustrated or angry that it's sitting there because you really want to do something and you just don't, or you can't, or, you know, life gets in the way or whatever. And it's something that's bringing you smiles. And I like that. And that feels good to me. And I just feel like those people are appreciating that and feeling blessed in a time when they're unsure of what's next, you know?
Mhm.
So it's just making their place and their home and their environment more pleasant for them. And I feel like I get to be a part of that.
I guess I kind of feel that God's still kind of using my hobby, hopefully, to reach out to people. Because I think board games, for me anyway, and for a lot of people, I think board games are just a way to get to know people, to spend time with other people, you know, to put the phones down, turn the TV off, just sit down and actually interact with other people, you know, break down barriers. You can sit down with, you know, a 60-year-old guy and a 13-year-old kid and, you know, a 30-year-old guy or a girl, whatever. You can sit down with any age, any gender, anybody, and sit down and enjoy a game together, you know, learn how people win, learn how people lose. You know, you can really tell a lot about someone just how they handle these things.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of why I started the board game night at church, you know, just to try and reach out to people, because I think that there's a lot more people out there who like games who don't go to church, that all it would take for them is maybe come to church, see we're not a bunch of weirdos, you know, that we're willing to sit down and I'll play a game with you. Sure. I mean, I was going to say it doesn't matter what game, but there's, you know, Cards Against Humanity I'd rather not play, you know, games like that. But, you know, I'll sit down and play some wizard game with you, or I'll sit down and play chess or whatever, you know. It's a way to bring people in and build up relationships without really having to find something to talk about. Because there are people out there who just, they're closed off, they're walled off, they don't really have a lot of social skills, or they're not good at communicating. But you could sit down and you could play a game with them, joke around, you know, maybe win, maybe lose, but in the end, you just enjoyed something with a person. So
Yeah.
I think God can use that, you know, to try and either bring people into the church or just build relationships in the church.
I agree with that. That's cool.
I agree. I think mine's the same thing. I think that like building things, solving problems, the joy is in the journey. There is a huge social aspect to even doing little electrical projects, because I think part of the reason why I defaulted to it is because I can bring my kids into it. It is highly social. It's something it's a group solving problem. So now the cousins are into it. So this year we got the cousins their first their Ender 3 for their 3D printing.
Nice,
and
that's what I have.
We have an Ender 2 in our basement for our 3D printing. Now we're all on the phone. Where every day my son Skypes his cousins. They're playing Minecraft, so they're building things there. And I do see eventually it's exactly like the gaming. To be honest, it's sitting down. We have a problem. How do we solve the problem? And it's terribly fun to be the teacher in that non-school environment where you're talking about, let's solve the problem together. And they're so excited to solve the problem. They're so excited to see their little motors spinning and their little lights blinking, and we all have a good time. And so like even my son with that little computer in the basement, just putzing about with it. And I don't really care if he breaks it, you know. We're just fooling around and trying to make it work. And he's learning so much, and I'm learning a lot, and we're enjoying each other's company, and we're enjoying each other's time. God's all in the business of people. He's in the business of developing people, of bringing us together, healing us. And anything that we do, any of our hobbies that have that medium to bring us together and our creative expression, God's incredibly creative. He put that in us, and he put so much in us to learn. And I think all those things come together in our hobbies. It'll be really interesting to see what heaven is like.
We were created in God's image, and God is a very creative God as well. It's just finding that niche of the talent or the creative art, that whether it's artwork, specifically drawing, painting, whatever, something that you love, that he's given you a desire for. And so that is what makes you creative and unique. So
Right.
I think what some people think they can't do it because they're afraid they're going to be not as good as that person or that person, but it doesn't really matter.
No.
As long
And
as-
it's just like a
long as
muscle, you know, you practice and you get better, and it's No.
It's all really, really well said. But I think for me, when it comes to how God uses our hobbies, Cody Qualley and Jason Stewart and I sometimes play Apex Legends online on Xbox and do a thing called pray then play. And we pray if there's any prayer requests, and then we pray together, and then we play. So like, we finish our prayer, we say Amen. Now let's go kill some people. And so it's all going in good fun, but it's good to be purposeful about our hobbies, I think, and I think we can use our hobbies in so many ways to glorify God, and in ways probably nobody probably even thinks of. And there's always creative ways. And I like what you said, John, about just developing people and building those relationships and those connections. It's so important, and I think so maybe downplayed because development takes time and it's difficult sometimes. But I think God's in all of it. And so I don't know. This is a good group to get together because I think we kind of have a lot of overlapping hobbies and a lot of different ones. I think where we specialize. And so, John, I'd still, if you want to show off your dungeon.
All right, I'll do it quick. It's gonna be dark. Let's see. Well, it's a dungeon, right? You would expect it to be dark.
It's gotta be dark. It wouldn't be a dungeon.
Okay, it's about to get really bad. Okay, so there's the carnage. Anyway, so here's the workbench. So as you can see, oh my gosh, it's just like so bizarre.
That was like so much fun.
It's got the label makers. I'm trying to get him to like, let's label this stuff, James. We gotta label it. Another little project we were working on, a little radio control. This is a little Arduino project for controlling little RC cars and tanks. Super fun.
That's cool.
Here's my woodworking projects that's not getting done. My little old radio cabinet. It's totally busted up here. Here's my little 3D printer. There's the brand new. There it is.
Nice.
It's got the 3D fuel. This is local.
Yeah. Yep. I buy it from there also.
Well, this is kind of messy. But then see, like, it goes into my office, and this is supposed to be my safe space for like not having work in here. But then it like somehow it turned into another spot. This is supposedly my soldering station, but as you can see, this is like, I don't know. As you can see, look at this. This is just like, it's unbelievable. And look, it even spreads over here. This is out of control. I will admit it. I have a problem. I will admit it. Then notice the music is still here. Like, there's music.
It's all intermingled.
Right.
Music. Mess. You don't know which one you're going to reach for. You might be hankering for this. And then, like, all of a sudden the soldering iron comes out. I can't explain.
When I have to wait for something to dry and I'll get bored, either that or medication wears off. And I'm like, well, what else can I do? And I put a bunch of stuff on the wall and hung up all this junk that was on the floor, but I made it look pretty. And then I decided I was going to cut chicken wire shapes and stuff. And I send my coworkers pictures and like, this distraction is brought to you today by, and it's just a little bit of everything. Spreads like wildfire, right, John?
It does. It really does. And I do need to clean it up. I just keep saying that I've been so busy, but I'm not too busy to like go down there and tinker more. I'm just too busy to clean up after I'm tinkering. That's the problem.
That's real life.
I have that problem.
No one sees it, it's sort of.
Well, we just did.
Not a lot of people see it.
Oh, there it is.
It is. Building towers with cards.
Were you ever able to put together a short list, Mike, of some games for people, the recommendations?
Yeah. So here's one that is very good for people who have not played very many games. There's actually a bunch of different versions of it. Like I've got a Disney one. You basically just build a grid, and the grid has a bunch of different words. And someone gives a clue, and they're trying to get you to guess to pick certain words, but not pick other words. So there's two teams. There's a blue team and a red team. So the blue team, they're trying to get all their blue words. The red team's trying to get all the red words. And if you pick someone, you don't want to pick someone else's word. But it's a very good game. It's a very popular game.
I played that game. That's a
Have you played it? Yeah. Where words. It's like, have you heard of One Night Ultimate Werewolf or Mafia?
Yeah.
Any of those kind of games? It's basically
Mafia,
it's basically that game, very simplified down, mixed with 20 questions. It sounds weird, but it's very good. And then there's, some fun biblical games. This one, you're trying to stop the spread of sin in Israel. A lot of those games are terrible. I mean, there's so many Bible games that are just horrible, but that one's actually, it's really fun. And then this one where you're trying to build the church up.
Do you have to kill all the men, women, and children? Is that part of the game?
No, they're very fun. Both of those are actually cooperative games, so you're working together with all the other people. Welcome to. You have a little pad of paper, just kind of like if you're playing Yahtzee or something. Only instead of rolling dice, you flip over a couple cards, and then everyone kind of writes down on their sheet to try and fill in a neighborhood, and you score points in different ways. It's a really fun game.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've gone over our time, so good luck, Cody, editing this. But it's been really great talking to you guys, and I'm super appreciative you were able to come on the call. And it's also just good to connect again. I've been missing a lot of people, so
Yeah, no,
yeah,
it's
it's been kind of sad,
cool.
but it's
Well,
okay.
thanks for doing it though, and thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, thank you.
It's cool. Staying connected is good. So, if anyone wants to get in contact with me about doing any of that stuff that I talked about, they're more than welcome to.
Cool.
Painting or whatever.
Cool. Thanks. And I think I'll just pray and then I'll let you guys go for the night. But thank you, Jesus, for tonight. Thank you for this opportunity to gather together and fellowship and to talk about the things, God, that you've given us creativity for and that we really enjoy, Lord. And I just pray that you would you just continue to open up people's hobbies, open up people's giftings, God. And I just pray that you'd help us to make time for them, to expand our creativity, God, and to not let our gifts go to waste. And we just thank you for who you are, God, and that you are a creative God, and God, that you're with us in those times where we're doing the things that we love. Father, we love you. We thank you. Just ask that you bless each person here in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks so much. Good.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night, guys.
Have a good night.
Good night.